It is our duty to know the difference between the doomed and the damned. Greetings, brethren. These words, spoken by chaplains, mark the line between sorrow and disgrace, between tragedy and corruption. We speak now of the Black Company, the damned within the ranks of the noble sons of Sanguinius, in spirit and in fate. They are the warriors who have succumbed to the Black Rage, that affliction seared into the very soul of their gene line, an unhealed wound that festers across the millennia. Their story is not one of glory, though their deeds shake the battlefield, nor is it one of villainy, though their wrath is unrelenting. It is a story of inevitability, of warriors who march to war knowing they will never return, who fight for nothing but for death. The Death Company, the Black Company, is the blood price the sons of Sanguinius must pay for their lineage, the manifestation of a tragedy older than our own Imperium. Tonight, we speak of loss. We speak of madness and sacrifice, of warriors clad in black, marked by the red cross of their Primarch's wounds, who charge into battle seeking only one thing: an ending. For in their rage, they do not remember history. They live it. So please sit and listen closely as we look at the brothers in rage, the Death Company. To outsiders, the few who have seen the Blood Angels fight understand they are savage berserkers. But to watch those of the Death Company, it is something else entirely. To those committed to the company, it is a grim sentence, a sacrifice made by those who have already lost themselves. To speak of their role in war is to speak of destruction without restraint. Each battle they enter is a funeral, each charge a dirge. They do not seek triumph, only the oblivion of combat. And yet, despite their doomed fate, they are often the blade that turns the tide, the hammer that breaks the enemy's back. Their ferocity, their sheer inability to feel fear or pain, makes them unstoppable in the moment of war. Many an enemy commander has stood upon a fortress wall and watched with dawning horror as the black-clad warriors came, heedless of bolter fire, uncaring of shrapnel wounds, cutting through lines of defenders as if they were not men but spectres of vengeance that cannot be deterred, only delayed. It is a terrible thing, this power that the Black Rage grants. It is the fury of Sanguinius himself, undiluted, unchecked. A warrior in its grip is stronger, faster, and cruelly resistant to wounds that would fell even the mightiest Astartes. For every moment that a warrior fights within the Death Company, he is not truly there. His mind is elsewhere, his soul lost in the final moments of the heresy, his hands striking not at the foes of the present, but at the ghosts of the past. Through the long millennia, the Death Company has left its mark on countless wars. There are legends of Death Company warriors cutting through entire enemy ranks before finally falling, of last stands where black-armored figures fought until the very ground was red with their lifeblood, of foes who fled in terror at the sight of them. On Baal, during the greatest battle of the chapter's history, the Death Company threw itself against the tide of the Great Devourer, holding the line long enough for salvation to come. In the many wars of the Imperium, they have been the desperate answer to impossible odds, the blade that strikes when all else fails. Yet for all their victories, there is no honor in their fate, only sorrow. Each member of the Death Company is a brother lost. Their names are written in the Librarius, but they will not return to read them. Their deeds are remembered, but they will never be celebrated as heroes. Their fate is to die, and if they do not, if, by some dark twist of fate, they survive the battle, then their doom is far worse. No warrior who has fallen to the Black Rage can be allowed to live. Those who are not slain in battle are put to the sword by the Redeemers of the Lost, or else locked away in the deep crypts, forever beyond the reach of war. The galaxy knows of the Blood Angels' nobility, of their grace, their honor. But it also knows of this dark curse that haunts them, this madness that stalks their sons. And it fears them for it. For when the Death Company comes, a tide of death, a force that will stop at nothing, until its thirst for vengeance is satisfied. And the tragedy is that it never will be. Their strength is undeniable, their role in war irreplaceable, perhaps the best shock troops any commander could ask for, yet their success is always measured in loss. On worlds such as Truatus, Antax, Holonon, Armageddon, and Venerax, the Death Company shattered enemy lines, tore through entrenched positions, and left nothing but ruin in their wake. Though the specific details of these engagements remain fragmentary, the pattern is clear. Time and again, their berserk assault has been the key to victory. It is not strategy or tactics that defines their use, it is inevitability. When the enemy cannot be broken by conventional means, when all else fails, the Death Company is unleashed. They are not a force of war, but of execution. Their presence on a battlefield does not signal a campaign, it signals an ending. The War of Broken Wings in the 33rd millennia was one such moment of desperate reckoning. The Angels Sanguine, their fortress world under siege, found themselves facing an overwhelming force of Night Lords. To fall here would not simply mean defeat, but annihilation. And so, in an act both brilliant and horrific, 300 of their lost brothers were sent into the void, launched in boarding torpedoes towards the traitor fleet. There were no chaplains to steady them, no commands to direct their path. There was only the hunger for slaughter, the fury of a vengeance 10 millennia old. When the torpedoes struck, the carnage was instant. The sightless godling, its decks thick with heretic warriors, became a charnel house of dismembered bodies and shattered armor. The Death Company did not fight as men. They fought as wrath made flesh, carving through corridors, tearing apart bulkheads, leaving the ship's mortal crew screaming in terror as the sons of Sanguinius took their due. Without leadership, without restraint, their rampage could not be contained. The Night Lords, masters of fear, found themselves hunted in the very shadows they once commanded. They had come seeking to break the Angels Sanguine, to plunge the defenders into terror. Instead, they were the ones who knew fear. As their capital ships fell one by one, panic set in. The traitor warbands abandoned their assault, retreating into the void, only to be cut down as the vengeful defenders rallied. Those Night Lords unfortunate enough to remain aboard the infested ships were slaughtered to the last man, their vessels left as drifting tombs, haunted by the black-clad ghosts of Sanguinius's wrath. It was a victory, but like all victories bought with the Death Company's blood, it came with no triumph. The Angels Sanguine had survived, but 300 of their brothers had been lost, not simply dead, but consumed. Their souls burned away by the Black Rage. And though their sacrifice had ensured the chapter's future, their names would never be spoken again. No monuments would be raised in their honor. Their black armor would be stripped of its red crosses, their deeds recorded only in silence. This is the nature of the Death Company. Their triumphs are undeniable, but they are triumphs that no one wishes to speak of. The Imperium is built on sacrifice, yet few sacrifices are so absolute as this. They disappear, erased by a curse that can never be lifted. And still, the Blood Angels march on, knowing that with every battle, more of their brothers will fall to the same fate, their souls lost to a war that never truly ended. They are mourned even as they march into battle. Every battle brother knows that the black rage is not a failing of the warrior, but a fate woven into their very being. The difference between the doomed and the damned is clear. The doomed are those who, through no fault of their own, have been consumed by the burden of their gene line. The damned are those who turn their backs on their brothers, who fall willingly to the abyss. And the death company, though lost to reason, remain loyal. They fight not for themselves, not even for victory, but as an act of service, one last offering before oblivion takes them. To a blood angel, the fallen of the death company are not simply madmen. They are brothers, warriors who once stood beside them, who once bore the same dreams of nobility and glory. The tragedy is that they did not choose this fate. It came for them, as it may come for any son of Sanguinius. And so, when they don the black armor, when they step onto the battlefield for the last time, they do so with reverence. The chaplains do not lead them into battle with orders alone, but with prayers, with litanies of remembrance, invoking the name of Sanguinius as a final benediction. Each battle brother knows that should they themselves succumb, their own fate will be the same. The Black Rage does not discriminate. But not all of the Blood Angel's successors share this solemn reverence. The angels numinous, cold and distant in their purity, see those who fall to the Black Rage not as doomed, but as failures. To them, the affliction is a mark of weakness, a flaw in the soul, something to be expunged rather than honored. Their death company is not treated as sacred, nor do they mark their sacrifice with ritual or remembrance. Instead, they are used as little more than disposable weapons, hurled into the most desperate assaults without thought, without mourning. They are not named, not remembered. They are an embarrassment, something to be rid of as quickly as possible. The flesh-tearers, known for their own barely contained bloodlust, do not share the angels numinous' disdain, but neither do they have the blood angel's reverence. To them, the death company is simply an extension of the violence that already simmers beneath their surface. They do not seek to preserve these warriors, nor do they lament their loss. When battle comes, the flesh-tearers unleash their death company with the same brutality that defines their chapter. In war there is no mercy, and the flesh-tearers have little patience for those who cannot master their own rage. The death company serves a purpose: to break the enemy, to tear through their lines in a storm of blood and ruin. Whether they live or die is of no consequence. Some, like the blood angels themselves, hold fast to tradition, honoring their lost even as they send them to die. Others view them as little more than a means to an end. And in this, perhaps, lies the true tragedy of the death company. Not merely that they are lost, but that they are not always mourned. Because all the sons of Sanguinius are susceptible to this fall on the eve of battle, when the air is thick with the scent of oil and incense, when weapons are checked and rechecked, when warriors stand in silent ranks before their chaplains, a different kind of war is fought. The Black Rage is a whisper in the mind, a shadow on the edge of thought, a wound that never truly heals. And so, before battle, the sons pray, not only for victory, but for control. The chaplains walk among them, their voices deep, steady, measured. They look into the eyes of each warrior, watching, searching. There are signs, a slight tremor in the hands, a distant look, a voice that rises too eagerly in response to the litanies. Some do not even know they are slipping. They stand with their brothers, gripping their weapons, steeling themselves for war, and yet, in their minds, they are elsewhere. They are not on the eve of battle, but on the bridge of the vengeful spirit, standing before a throne of ruin, watching a golden figure fall beneath the claws of a monster. The past is not past. It is happening, again and again, and they are there, and they will always be there. And then comes the Mori Patris, the Mass of Doom. The chaplains' voices rise in unison, chanting the words that have been spoken for 10,000 years. The warriors repeat them, their voices deep and strong. But for some, the words no longer make sense. The present no longer holds them. Their bodies stiffen, their breaths quicken, and then, one by one, they collapse. It is not weakness, it is not failure, it is simply fate. The chaplains catch them, strong hands breaking their fall. There is no hesitation, no moment of sorrow. The fallen are lifted and taken away, their armor stripped of red and gold, replaced with the black of mourning. Their names will not be spoken again. They are no longer men of this era. They are the death company, lost to the madness of their gene sire's final moments, doomed to fight one last battle before oblivion claims them. And as their former brothers march to war, these doomed warriors are led to the armory. There they are given their weapons, not standard-issue bolt guns, not war gear suited to a campaign, but whatever they choose. The chainsword that once rested in a vault for a hero not yet risen. The power axe that has seen 100 wars. A pair of pistols, worn smooth from the hands of the dead. There is no discipline, no doctrine. They will fight as they will, for no strategy can guide them. Every successor chapter, of course, has their own rites to deal with the company. The Blood Angels keep their death company in the Tower of Amareo, the Flesh Tearers the Tower of the Lost, when not at war, where they are stilled by the chaplains. Within these towers, the air trembles with their rage, anguished howls, incoherent screams, the constant hammering of fists against stone. Some speak in broken voices, reciting orders from a war fought 10,000 years ago. Others bellow the name of the great betrayer, calling for vengeance that can never be satisfied. And still others simply weep, their bodies racked with convulsions, tears mixing with the blood that seeps from the wounds they have inflicted upon themselves in their madness. The chaplains walk among them, their heavy footfalls echoing through the dim corridors. It is their duty to watch over these lost warriors, to seek, however futilely, a way to bring them back. The sanguinary priests work tirelessly, analyzing gene seed samples, dissecting the bodies of those who have fallen, poring over ancient medical texts in the desperate hope that something, anything, might offer a cure. For those imprisoned within the tower, there are only two fates. Either the chaplains will release them into the ranks of the death company to find an ending in battle, or they will remain here until their bodies can no longer sustain their fury. There are cells in the lower levels, deep beneath the tower, where some have raged for decades, their minds locked in that endless moment, their bodies reduced to gaunt husks, long past the point of being Astartes, but unable to die. This is the grim understanding of those who fall to the black rage will not return. For most, the fate of a death company warrior is a single terrible battle, a final charge into the enemy ranks, their madness given purpose. The Blood Angels and many of their successors ensure this. Those who somehow survive the carnage are not allowed to linger. They are granted the Emperor's peace, culled by their chaplains or sanguinary priests, for to let them persist in such a state is a cruelty beyond measure. But the Flesh Tearers do not share this view. For them, the Black Rage is a form of communion. A warrior lost to the rage is closer to Sanguinius than any other. Their minds are not trapped in the present. They are with him, fighting beside him, reliving his final battle with every heartbeat. To perish in this state is to die as Sanguinius did, in righteous fury, in the throes of a battle that should have ended 10,000 years ago, but never did. And so, for the Flesh Tearers, The Black Rage is not an affliction to be purged swiftly. It is something to be used. Those who survive battle are not culled. They are gathered, their broken bodies retrieved, their black armor repaired, their weapons returned to them. They are taken back, not to be executed, but to be kept. And not simply in some dark cell, locked away as an aberration, but in a place meant for them. Aboard the Death's Cowl, a strike cruiser devoted entirely to their containment. The ship echoes with the constant roar of its passengers, howling, bellowing, shrieking in rage as they lash out at the walls, at each other, at enemies who exist only in their shattered minds. They do not sleep, they do not speak, they do not think, at least not in any way that can be understood. And when the flesh-tearers go to war, when battle demands a horror that even they cannot match, the Death's Cowl is unleashed. Its cargo is delivered to the battlefield. The Death Company charges forth in numbers that stagger belief, their fury unchecked, their violence absolute. No attempt is made to guide them, no chaplain stands among them to offer restraint. They are not given a final benediction, for they have already received it. Every moment in the Black Rage is a blessing in their eyes. There was a time when the flesh-tearers numbered fewer than 1,000 warriors. Yet whispers in the archives, scattered reports and fragmented records suggest that before the devastation of Baal, their Death Company may have rivaled their regular battle brothers in number. If true, it speaks to a terrible reality, that the flesh-tearers are not haunted by the Black Rage. They are embracing it. And perhaps in their own way they see this as the truest path for a son of Sanguinius. Not to resist the rage, not to fear it. The Black Rage itself is more than a mental manifestation. It is a complete unraveling of what it means to be human, or even Astartes. To fall to it is to be consumed by it, until all that remains is wrath given flesh. At first, the afflicted retain their form, their armor, their weapons. They are warriors still, if only in appearance. But as the curse tightens its grip, as battle after battle passes and death refuses to claim them, they begin to change. Their bodies, already far beyond mortal limits, twist into something unnatural, something monstrous. Their muscles swell grotesquely, their frames bulging with unnatural strength, their proportions no longer fitting even the war plate designed for transhuman giants. Their teeth yellow and lengthen into fangs, their lips curling back in a perpetual snarl. Their skin darkens, turning waxy, taking on the color of old, dried blood. Their hands, once so precise in the handling of bolter and blade, curl into taloned fists. They no longer move like warriors, but like beasts, bounding forward on their knuckles, the grace of the Blood Angels utterly lost, replaced with bestial fury. Their once noble eyes, so often compared to those of their angelic Primarch, become pools of molten amber, devoid of reason, devoid of anything but hunger. It is rare for a warrior to reach this stage. Most die long before such transformation occurs, either cut down in battle or put to the sword by their own kin. But some endure, whether by sheer resilience or through the dark, mocking mercy of the gene seed's malfunctioning gifts. These wretches cannot be reasoned with. They are not simply insane. They are gone, their minds shattered beyond all recognition. Among the Blood Angels, such creatures do not live long. Their brothers, however sorrowfully, strike them down before they can become something unspeakable. But among the flesh-tearers, among those who do not grant their Death Company swift death, the possibility lingers that some of these things, these abominations, are kept, contained. Though the rage is an inescapable doom, it is not entirely without control. The Blood Angels and their successors have spent millennia refining methods to manage those who have succumbed, if not to cure them, then at least to direct them, to ensure that when the Black Company is unleashed, its wrath is not squandered in mindless carnage. The chaplains, the custodians of this curse, hold the key. Through deep psycho-conditioning implanted during an Astarte's earliest years of training, triggers are woven into the mind, dormant, waiting. These are not conscious memories, but impressions, phrases, and commands that bypass thought, striking deep into the warrior's core. When invoked in battle, they momentarily cut through the haze of the black rage, not breaking its hold, but focusing it. The effect is not uniform. For some, it is a hesitation, a moment where the chaplain's voice reaches through the fury, just long enough for them to recognize an order. For others, it is a more profound reaction, an almost instinctive obedience, drilled into them so deeply that even madness cannot erase it. The chaplains do not control the death company, not in the way a commander directs his troops, but they can point them, can push them toward the enemy rather than their own allies. The words vary from chapter to chapter, but they're always simple, always primal. Righteous vengeance. Strike true. Remember the betrayer. These phrases do not restore reason, but they resonate in the deepest recesses of the afflicted mind, aligning the death company's rage with the battle at hand. The presence of a chaplain is often the only thing preventing them from turning on friend as well as foe. In rare cases, there have even been instances where warriors of the death company, though utterly lost, have paused just long enough to recognize a battle brother, long enough to hesitate, to refocus, to direct their wrath at the true enemy. For those who have not yet fallen, for those who feel the black rage stirring at the edges of their mind but who still cling to themselves, there are other means of control. It is believed, though never spoken of openly, that acts of creation can hold the madness at bay. Sculpting, painting, metalwork, the delicate shaping of gold filigree on armor, the carving of intricate reliefs into marble, the painstaking crafting of weapons not as tools of war but as works of art. These acts of devotion, of discipline, seem to slow the inevitable, grounding the warrior in something beyond battle, allowing them to channel their passion, their focus, their need into something other than destruction. It is not a cure. It never will be. But it is a reprieve, a way to anchor themselves, to remind themselves that they are more than their curse, that they are still sons of the angel, still warriors of something greater. This is why the Blood Angels' halls are filled with beauty, why their fortress monastery is as much a gallery as a citadel. For as long as they can hold a brush, a chisel, a forge hammer, perhaps they can hold on to themselves. But even this is only a delay. The black rage will come. It always does. And when it does, all that remains is war.